back to another session. Today we are dealing with the August cumulative current affairs. It will be dealt in two parts. This is part 1 and we will be dealing exclusively about 45 topics in 45 questions, prelims questions. We will be dealing about important 45 key important topics or prelims topics that has come in this month. So if you are looking, I have given a cumulative a lot of topics here. In polity we have the Rohini Commission, Bharat NCAP, PM Usha scheme, section 8 of Representation of Peoples Act 1951, Safai Karamcharis, Multidimensional Poverty Index and Vishwakarma scheme. If you are looking into art and culture, we have the Kalbelia dance, Kuruvai cultivation, Kuttikanam Palace, Kanchipuram silk, Nehru boat race, Nataraja statue, La Dachra fair and Sita Kali folk art. Going into economy, we have the new frictionless credit by RBI, Moody's credit rating systems and 8 core industries. If you are looking into international relations, we have some few bodies like ACTO, ECOWAS, BRICS, then Nagorno-Karabakh region, Armenia-Azerbaijan region where there is dispute going on, Kachativu Island, Tsushima Strait, India-Greece relations, Doklam dispute. In health, we have longevity gene, xenotransplantation, ALS disease. History, we have Ajnala massacre and Nagaparam megalithic site. In environment and ecology, we have the carbon capture story, species in news. There are 6 species. I have actually cumulatively taken 6 species that was in news at the end. North Sea drilling. So if you are looking into science and tech, there is a lot of topics of superconductor, semiconductor, Maya OS, non-helium, indigenous MRI scanners, Aditya L1, National Deep Tech startup, acoustic side channel attacks, Fukushima nuclear power plant, sodium ion battery, Crew 7 mission, Shiva Shakti, Chandrayaan 3, GitHub, Namo 108 and cluster bombs. So this is actually only a few topics of the lot of topics. I have taken about 280 topics cumulatively in the month of August, and these are some of the basics or important areas out of all the August current affairs which I have taken. So now moving on, we have the first question. Consider the following statement. Statement 1, the weight of 8 core industries in the index of industrial production is 40.27%, making them the most significant economic sectors. Statement 2, electricity was the only sector marking contractions. Here the first statement is actually correct. The first statement is correct and the 8 core sectors actually make up to 40.27%, but the statement 2, electricity was not the only sector. Like out of the 8, 7 performed well and 1 sector did not perform well. That is not electricity but crude oil sector. Okay, so if you are looking, we need to find the correct statements. So only statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is incorrect. So if you are looking into the 8 core industries which contribute to about 40.27%, one is coal, electricity. The crude oil is the one which actually performed negatively, minus 3%. We have coal, electricity, crude oil, cement, natural gas, steel, refinery products and fertilizers. These are the 8 core industrial sectors in India. Moving on to our next question, we have with reference to Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. Now this scheme was introduced for the ease of doing business for people and the scheme for the dispute resolution of direct tax. That is a correct statement. Any disclosed income from a foreign source outside India or any undisclosed assets outside India is not covered under the scheme. This is also true. It currently deals about with the resolution of direct taxes and it does not deal about your assets or properties that are outside India. So both statement 1 and statement 2 is the correct answer. So option A is the correct answer. Moving on, we have the next question about Kalbelia dance. So statement 1, Kalbelia are the snake charming tribe from Rajasthan. It is included in the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. It is only performed by women while the men play the instruments and provide the music. Both the statements are actually correct. So if you are looking in the Kalbelia dance, this is the Kalbelia dance where the women perform the dance and men actually play instruments and provide music for the dance. The Kalbelia dance is an integral part of the cultural heritage culture of the Kalbelia tribe itself. Women flow in black skirts and swirl which actually replicate the movement of a serpent. Men accompany them on instruments like kanjari, poongi, which actually traditional instrument played to capture snakes. So this is Kalbelia dance. Now moving on, we have the next questions. Consider the following statement. Kuruvai cultivation is a seasonal cultivation of paddy rice during the Kuruvai cultivation season in Karnataka. The Kuruvai season is a short-term or lesser monsoon season typically occurred between June and September. It is characterized by the onset of the southwestern monsoon which brings rainfall to the region. This Kuruvai cultivation is not in Karnataka but it is prominent in Tamil Nadu. Now this Kuruvai cultivation is done along the areas of the Kaveri river basin, and this depends upon the release of water from the Mettur dam in Karnataka. So this whole Kuruvai cultivation actually depends upon the monsoon and the release of Kaveri water by Karnataka. So this Kuruvai cultivation actually takes place in Tamil Nadu, and it is a short term or lesser monsoon season, and these crops are grown in the engaged between June to September between the short term. So it is also called as lesser short term like seasons, characterized by the onset of southwestern monsoon. So we are asked for the correct statement. So only two statements are correct, 2 and 3 are correct, the statement 1 is wrong. Kuruvai cultivation is in Tamil Nadu. Now moving on, the multidimensional poverty index developed by the Oxford Poverty and the Human Development Initiative by UNDP support covers which of the following? We know that in the multidimensional poverty index there are 3 sectors being covered. That is deprivation of health, education and assets and service to the household level. These are the 3 things that is covered under our education, assets and health. The 3 things that are standard of living, education and health, the 3 things which is actually covered under this multidimensional poverty index. But the purchasing power parity at national level is not considered. Extent of the budget deficits and GDP growth rate is actually not considered. So only 1 is correct in this case. Moving on, we have considered the following statement about Rohini Commission. Now this commission was recently in this news, and they want to examine actually the question of subcategorization of the OBC. Now presently the reservation and such category is actually only beneficial to a very little population of the dominant class which is present inside the OBC. The majority of people who are OBC is not getting any kind of benefits or reservation or job or education that is actually required. So the Rohini Commission actually came to examine the question of subcategorizing again, so that the people who OBC class who have not got or are still social and educationally backward should come forward, and the dominant class will be given less reservation and they will be more upgraded. Examining how much of 27% reservation, jobs and education and other government benefits meant for OBCs were dominated by which caste groups and such. We are asked for the incorrect. Both statements are correct, so none is the answer. Remember Rohini Commission, we know the Mandal Commission which gave 27% reservation to social and educationally backward class. Now with this 27%, there are only some category of people who get the reservations and they are dominant within this OBC. So this Rohini Commission is actually going to review all this. Moving on, we have the Amazon Cooperation Treaty is an intergovernmental treaty between 10 countries. The organization that seeks a sustainable use of Amazon region in equitable and integrated way. This Amazon Cooperation Treaty consists of 8 countries and not 10 countries, and they actually want the seeks the sustainable use of Amazon region. So if you see here, there are 8 countries which is actually present. These are the 8 countries, that is Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Peru, Suriname and Venezuela. So these are the 8 countries that are actually present in this Amazon Cooperation Treaty. Now this treaty actually came forward, and last it was operated in 2009. So after all these years, this treaty actually is coming back to conserve the Amazon region. This is came under the new Brazilian President Lula, who actually wanted to preserve this Amazon basin. So this Amazon actually, with its hundreds of billions of carbon absorbing trees, the Amazon is actually a key buffer against our global warming. But recently the carbon emission from Amazon has been increased and to about 17% in 2022 compared to the annual average for 2010 to 2018. Now because of the destruction of Amazon region, the carbon emission from this region is increasing. So it's very important that we conserve the Amazon, because it is actually a key buffer against the global warmings and such. So moving on to our next question. So in this statement, only statement 2 is correct. So D is the correct answer, statement 1 is incorrect and statement 2 is the correct answer. Moving on, consider the following statement with respect to ECOWAS. ECOWAS is Economic Community of West African States. That the first statement is correct. It is a regional and political and economic union of 15 countries which is located in West Africa. That is also a true statement. Algeria, Niger, Mali, Libya are members of this group. So if you are seeing here, Niger and Mali are actually members, but the Algeria and Libya are actually not members of this group. So if you are looking, we are asked for the incorrect statement. Only one is incorrect because the first and second statement is true. If you are looking here, you can see Algeria and Libya here. We have Mali and Niger. These both are the ECOWAS. Now this green area shows in 15 countries which are actually under this ECOWAS Economic Commission of Western Africa. So that is the 15 states, that is actually 15 countries that is coming under it. It does not include Algeria and Libya, but it consists of Mali and Niger. We can actually see that there was recent coup in the Niger, and similar there has been a lot of coups happening in the western region. So this ECOWAS has been very critical in holding the peace in these areas. Now, with regards to the cluster bombs, which are the following statements are true? A cluster munition is a form of air-dropped or ground-launched explosive weapon that release or eject small submunitions. Conventional cluster munition outlaws the use, production, transfer and stockpiling of these weapons due to their indiscriminate and long-lasting effects on civilian population. India, US, Russia, Ukraine, Pakistan, Israel and are not members of this Convention on Cluster Munition. So these are the 5 countries who are not actually members of CCM. So all these statements are actually correct. Now this was actually used in Russia. Like there has been a supply of this cluster bombs by US to Ukraine. So this has been in use. Now the cluster munition is formed like it's air-dropped. It consists of small droplets. It consists of about 100 to 200 small bomblets. Some of them may explode, some of them may doesn't explode. So particularly if you are looking at the international laws of war, the thing is that you should only target a military setup. You should actually discriminate between the people and the military, and you should only target a military sector. But if you are using cluster bombs and such, it does not discriminate between people and civilians and military. It's very indiscriminatory, and it's actually like it spreads along a lot of area. It doesn't bother if it's a civilian or a military. Both the category of people actually get affected, and a lot of people actually lose life. Children, women, they actually mostly are vulnerable, and they are affected by these cluster bombs. Not all the 100 to 200 bombs actually explode at the go. Some may not explode, and it may explode in the future. So it actually kind of acts as a land mine as well. So it's very important that the cluster munitions or cluster bombs are not used anymore. And this convention of cluster munition actually is very important treaty. Majority of countries have signed, but some certain countries like ourselves, India, US, Russia, Ukraine and Pakistan and Israel has not actually signed under this, because of which they are using this cluster bombs. Moving on, we come to our 10th question. With reference, consider the following statements. Union Ministry of Home Affairs decides the election schedule for the conduct of both general elections and by-election. Election Commission resolves the dispute relating the splits, merger, reorganization of political parties. New appointment panel of Election Commission consists of PM, Leader of Opposition and Law Minister. So in this statement, the first statement is actually wrong. The Union Ministry of Home Affairs does nothing related to the election schedule for the conduct of both general and election by-election. Everything is done by the Election Commission of India. The Election Commission of India actually resolves any kind of disputes that is actually relating to the splits or merger of the recognized parties. Now recently Election Commission has been used because a new appointment committee has been created. The early committee was Prime Minister plus Leader of Opposition plus Chief Justice of India. Now in this new committee, the Chief Justice of India was removed and a Cabinet Minister was introduced. So this Law Minister, this is wrong. So how many is correct? Only 1 is correct. So in this statement, not Law Minister but the Cabinet Minister was actually introduced. The earlier was Prime Minister plus Leader of Opposition and Chief Justice of India. Now the Chief Justice of India was removed and added Cabinet Minister was added. Moving on, we have this is the committee, like earlier committees has also talked about including of Chief Justice of India or judiciary in the case. So, the election commission can be actually an autonomous body. It can be independent of the government or the politics that is happening. It can be an autonomous body. So, the Dinesh Goswami committee suggested the need for selection committee and panel. So, they brought about the 70th constitutional amendment in 1990s, which was introduced in the parliament, but later it was not passed. Regularly, Justice Tarkunde Committee, he has stated that the election commission be appointed on the advice of a committee comprising of Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition of Lok Sabha and Chief Justice of India. So, you see the earlier body was also mentioned under different committees. Also, the second AIC report stated that not only the three parties like Prime Minister, Leader Lok Sabha, Opposition Leader and Chief Justice of India, two other members like the Law Minister and the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha we also included in this committee. So, that is a background. Moving on, we have an important topic, that is the Maya OS, recently in news. Improve the agriculture practice, enhance space exploration, prevent malware attack and securing critical infrastructure, promoting renewable energy sources. So, Maya OS is preventing malware attack and securing critical infrastructure. So, with the ongoing, we use the operating systems like Windows and such, where the other Americans, the US, the other Western nations have actually more power. They have backdoors to actually come and collect the data. So, if our government agencies, like important government agencies like Intelligence Bureau, RAW, Prime Minister's Office, if they are using operating systems, defense systems, defense another defense organization like Army and Defense, if they are using the operating systems of Windows, the foreigners or the Western nation, they can actually get data from this. But if we are using an indigenous operating system like Maya, then such kind of malware attacks, cyber attacks can be actually prevented. So, if you're looking, the aim is actually to prevent any kind of malware attack by cyber criminals. The new operating system will be backed by a protection system called the Chakravyuha. This endpoint system is also being developed in the computers that have installed Maya. Presently, only the defense sector has actually installed the Maya operating system and we are expanding it. There is a global initiative to counter cyber threats like the Budapest Convention. India is not part of the convention because we have to actually allow cross-border access of data, which India is not very comfortable in doing. So, we are not a part of the Budapest Convention. We have the UNGA resolution, United Nations General Assembly resolution, which is actually proposed by Russia, which entitled countering the use of information and communication, typically against the cyber threats. And we have the Internet Governance Forum, which brings together all stakeholders, the government, the NGOs, the private sectors, everybody together to counter the cyber threats. So, Maya OS is to prevent malware attack, and this is actually can be used instead of Windows operating system, Linux, etc. Now, consider the following statement. Helium is the second most abundant element in the universe, but a rare commodity on Earth. Non-helium based indigenous MRI scanners was made out of liquid nitrogen. So, for this is a very important indigenous tech like Maya OS, which was actually created indigenously. This non-helium based indigenous MRI scanners were also created indigenously. So, usually in MRI scanners, helium was used. As you see in the first statement, helium is actually abundant, but in Earth it is actually very rare, because of which it will be very costly and very cumulative to actually get helium to make in MRI scanners. So, we have developed indigenously non-helium based MRI scanners, which actually uses liquid nitrogen, which is more cost effective and can be constructed much more easily. So, it is a very indigenous technology, non-helium MRI scanners, indigenously built, and they have substitute liquid helium with liquid nitrogen. So, both the statements are correct. Statement 1 and statement 2 are the correct explanation for the statement 1. Now, moving on, consider the following. ALS is a neurodegenerative disease in which special nerve cells called the motor neurons in the brain and spine are affected. So, this ALS is a disease which actually affects the spines and the neurons, and in India we have a national policy for the rare disease which actually provides a person up to 50 lakhs for the patients who are suffering from any category of rare diseases. So, both the statements are actually correct. If you are looking into the national rare disease policy, the crux is that according to the definition of World Health Organization, a rare disease is a person if it affects 1 in 1000 population. If out of 1000, 1% gets a different kind of diseases, that is a rare disease. But according to India, it is like 1 to 6 in 10,000. So even if ALS comes in the outer, in the western areas, 1 of 1000 is a rare. But in India, ALS is still not a rare disease. So that is what talking about the National Rare Disease Policy of 2021 that is given out by the government. 50 lakh rupees, 50 lakhs will be actually provided for the patients who are suffering from the national rare, any rare diseases. So with this, they can actually, in India, government is actually aiming to improve their research in the rare diseases, so they can actually create medicines that is required. So this rare disease medicine, like it's very rare, so the medicine, or they don't have any kind of vaccination or any such resolution for this kind of rare diseases. So the medicines also, it becomes very costly. So the Indian government wanted to increase the research in that, so that they can actually produce medicine, so to bring down the overall cost. Now they have 3 disorders. These major portions, the disorders are actually divided into actually 3. So that is what we have to mainly deal about this National Rare Disease Policy. Now we have the another important topic, GitHub. It is one of the world's largest open source developer community platform. Here users can upload their project and code for others to view, edit and tweak. Indian software developers contribute over 24% of the AI related projects in GitHub. Both the statements are correct here. So GitHub is an open source platform where we can actually, like, we upload photos and videos on Instagram and Facebook. Here in the GitHub, an engineer or any other computer users can actually upload any projects or computer codes and language, so that other users can actually view it. Now Indian softwares actually contribute to about 24% of the products in GitHub. Like, that is a true statement, but China actually dominates this GitHub. So both the statement, both 1 and 2 are actually correct. Moving on, we have consider the following statement. Tuberculosis is the deadliest infectious disease caused by a bacterium called the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. The multi-drug resistance is a strain of TB that they cannot be treated with the first line and second line of anti-TB drugs. Bedaquiline to treat MD, drug resistant TB. In here, both the 3 statements are actually correct. Multi-drug resistant tuberculosis means that when you have a kind of tuberculosis which is not able to be treated with the first line and second line of anti-TB drug that is available now, you develop multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. So bedaquiline is actually a medicine that is required for the treatment of this kind of MDR TB. Moving on to our next question, we have consider the following statements. When enacted, the Constitution Scheduled Caste Order of 1950 initially provided for the recognition of only Hindus who actually were socially disabled because of the presence of untouchability. Now Justice Ranganath Mishra Commission recommend permitting Dalits who converted to Christianity to avail for reservation benefits under the Supreme Court quota. The Kaka-Kelkar Commission in 1955 actually recommended the amendment 1950 order to include Dalit Christians. If you have seen in our Hindu newspaper article, the Dalit Christians, they are not getting any kind of reservations or benefits, because like we actually focus on a single axis, not multiple axis. If you are a Dalit, you are a transgender and you are disabled, like you are in 3 categories. Now, no such law actually prevails which actually consider the multiplicity or the multiple angles, like you are Dalit, transgender and you are disabled. Those 3 actually won't come together in any of the laws in India. So in such a case is the Dalit Christians. Now because of Dalits being persecuted due to untouchability and such, many Dalits actually converted to Buddhism or Sikhism, like such. So such category of Dalits has been considered, but the new category like Dalit Christians has not still been addressed. So the first statement under the Constitution Schedule Act, only the Hindus who were actually prosecuted because of untouchability was considered. Later, Justice Ranganath Mishra Commission actually recommended permitting Dalits who converted to Christians also, but no such law was actually introduced. The Kaka-Kelkar Committee recommended not to include Dalit Christian, but other Dalits who actually converted to Buddhism, Sikhism, etc. So only first and second statement is true. So here only 2 statements are true here. Then choose the correct statement regarding PM Usha. So this PM Usha is a scheme like there was a scheme called RUSA. This was actually aimed at education, to improve the education qualification in India, and then recently the government actually reintroduced scheme from RUSA to actually Usha. The PM Usha actually provides funding exclusively to center university for enhancing their infrastructure. It's very wrong. It's actually providing not exclusively central universities. Now they actually PM Usha flow directly from the central ministry to the identical institution. That is also wrong. Like, the thing is that they want to actually develop the improvement of the education from the grassroots level. So such is not actually restricted to any central universities alone. It emphasizes improving the quality of the teaching learning process in higher education and such. So only one statement is correct here. The first and second statement is actually wrong. Moving on, with reference to the windfall tax seen in the news recently, consider the following. So you know what a windfall tax is. When there is actually a sudden profit, the government actually induces some kind of surcharge or says like that there is a windfall tax. Now this windfall tax is levied by the government against certain industries when the economic condition actually allow them to industries to experience above average profits. Now because of COVID, some companies were actually getting above average profits. So on such companies, this windfall tax will be inputted. The imposition of tax makes the product costlier. No, this actually is imported on the profit. So on the profit. So it actually doesn't include the rise of the cost of the prices. So here only statement 1 is correct, so only 1 is the answer. Moving on, which one of the following is not mostly the measure that the government might take, government or RBI might take to slow the slide of Indian rupees? Curbing the import of non-essential goods. One way the government can actually do. Encouraging Indian borrowers to issue rupee-denominated masala bonds. To decrease the slide of rupees and to increase the value of rupees, it's good decision to actually give out rupee-denominated masala bonds. Easing condition related to external commercial borrowing so that we don't have any problem relating to the funding. Follow an explanatory monetary policy. Now, this is a very wrong strategy that can actually, if you are putting a lot of money supply again to the Indian economy, it would actually further slide the Indian rupees or decrease the value of the Indian rupees. So, in here, government and RBI will not follow an expansionary monetary policy. Now, moving on, which of the two water body does Tsushima Strait connects? So, Tsushima Strait has been in news recently and it actually connects the East China Sea and the Sea of Japan. Now, this is between the South Korea and the Japan. You can see here the Tsushima Strait. It connects the Sea of Japan to the East China Sea. So, that is the news. So, this is the correct answer. There has been a presence of the Russian ships in this area, so that's why this has been in news. Consider the following statement about Namo 108. Now, Namo 108 is actually a lotus. Now, this lotus is specifically found in Manipur region. It has, scientists found that it has about 108 petals. So, that is why it was in news and the first statement is correct. Its fiber quality is superior to that of other lotus varieties. It is the first lotus variety whose genome was completely sequenced. So, you see, out of all the lotus flowers that was available, the Namo 180 has very low fiber quality. So, to increase this fiber quality content of Namo, this lotus variety was actually genetically modified. So, that is why it makes the first lotus variety be genetically modified. So, this statement is correct, this statement is correct and this statement is wrong. Their fiber quality is actually lower compared to others. So, only two statements is correct here. Moving on. With respect to Ajnala massacre, consider the following statements. The Ajnala massacre actually took place in Punjab during the First War of Independence at 1857. It involved the mass killing of about 282 soldiers of the 26th Native Bengal Infantry Regiments. It was against the East India Company. The massacre was a response to a peaceful protest by the Indian soldiers. The bodies of the soldiers were actually dumped into a well which was later filled in with coal and lime. So, this Ajnala massacre since 1857 was not known to a lot of people. Recently in the 2000s, a lot of research was actually done to find the location in which these soldiers was actually buried. So, we found this location of the burial in 2003 or such only. So, the third statement is actually wrong here. It was not a peaceful protest. The soldiers were actually arming to actually gun down the British East India Company. So, they actually killed 262 soldiers and then dumped all this body. Like if you actually seen any pictures, it is more like the bodies were thrown from a height to the well, and then it was actually covered with coal and lime, because of which the smell or any again smell didn't go out. So that was a very bad massacre that was happened in 1857. That's called the Ajnala massacre. The first statement is correct, second is correct, and the third is correct. So in the statement only three statements are correct here. Three only is correct here. Now moving on. RBI frictionless credit system recently in news is about digital lending platform. So that is the correct answer. It's about digital lending platforms, not FPI or credit information or small scale farming and borrowers. Now like if you are going to take money from bank, if you want a loan, you go to the bank. So the banker actually looks into all your system, all the documents you have about all the previous kinds of borrowings we have taken, if we have actually given it back correctly, about our assets and such are required to be actually produced in front of the banker. Now all these documents are with different agents, some are with the center, some are with the state, some are with other banks where you have taken loan. So this RBI's frictionless credit system actually allows all the documents to be under one platform, under one panel, so that you can actually, you no need even go to a bank to get the loan. You can actually call and inform the person. They can go through your documents online and the loan will be credited much more like in one day itself. Usually when you go to bank, you need to collect the document. It actually takes like 2 weeks to 1 month to get a proper loan. So that can be avoided. So this actually portrays more digital lending platforms and programs. So that is RBI's frictionless credit system. Consider the following statement. Tara Rani, Srivastava, Aruna Asif Ali, Kanakalata Baru, Matangiri Hazra, Suchita Kripalani. How many of these mentioned women leaders actually participated in the Quit India movement? So if you are looking, all the 5 actually participated in the Quit India movement of 1942. So if you are looking, Mata Rani Hazra, Kanakalata Baru, these personalities of women was actually mentioned by the Prime Minister in his Independence Day speech and by also President. So it is important that you learn, you go through these speeches. It is very important for your ethics and essay, and you go through all these important personalities of freedom strugglers which we have not actually heard about in our history lessons. So it is important as from a UPSC aspirant that you actually know about these personalities. So Matangini Hazra, she is from actually West Bengal and dedicated her life to social causes, and she was actually nicknamed as Gandhipuri. She actively engaged in CDM, in Quit India movement, and she was also present in the Indian National Congress. You have Kanakalata Baru. She is actually a youthful martyr of the Quit India movement, and she emerged as one of the embroiderers of bravery and resolute. At the age of 17 years, she was actually martyred, and she was actually assumed the leadership of Mrityu Bahini as well. In 2020, we have actually named a Coast Guard ship vessel in her honor. So there are two important personalities which I have already mentioned before. So it's important that you actually go through all these people. Consider the following statement. Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium and Finland. How many of the above mentioned countries share a border with the North Sea? So if you are looking at the map of North Sea here, we have UK here, we have Belgium, we have Netherlands, we have Denmark, we have Sweden, and then we have Norway. All these countries actually share a border with the North Sea. Okay, so in this we don't find actually Finland anywhere here. These are the countries which actually share a border with the Northern Sea. We don't see Finland here. So out of the mentioned countries, only 4 are present here, not all. Finland is not here. We saw Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Denmark. So only 4 are present here. That is the countries that are mentioned around the border of the Northern Sea. Northern Sea was recently in news because of a lot of exploitation and economic and ecological problems dealing with the exploitation or extraction of the oils and natural gas. So in that case, the Northern Sea was there in the news. So it's important that you learn the bordering countries around it. Now, following the consider the statements. Nagapamba excavations is a large number of megalithic headstones that were found in the Tamil Nadu region. Headstone popularly is called Toppikallu, is a hemispherical laterite stone that is used as a lid to cover burial urns during the megalithic period. We know the burial urns, it used to look like this, there was a lid to it. The bodies were actually cremated in this and then they were actually cremated. This was a burial urn, this is called a burial urn. Now, this is the headstone or Toppikallu that they are actually talking about. Now this Nagaparamba excavation is found in the Malabar district and it's not in Tamil Nadu, but it's actually present in Kerala. So this Topikalu name is in Malayalam. So it's a Kerala slang Malayalam. So this Topikalu is there. Hat stone popularly called Topikalu. Now these are hemispherical laterite stones which are actually used as lead to cover these burial urns. So if you are looking only, statement 2 is correct. Statement 2 is correct. Statement 1 is actually incorrect. This megalithic site exploration was actually found in Kerala, not Tamil Nadu region. Moving on, we have consider the following statement. The far side of the moon is the lunar hemisphere is always faces away from the earth. The far side has one of the largest craters of the solar system called the CaN basin located in the south pole. Luna 25 was aimed at south pole of the moon. The tidal locking is the reason why the far or dark side of the moon can't be observed. So as you see here, the far side of the moon is something which we cannot see. If you are looking in the earth, moon actually orbits the earth, but the problem is that we can only see one side of the moon. This 41% of the moon is the dark side or the far side which humans we cannot actually directly see. So if you are looking, even earth is rotating in axis and you would imagine that why can't we actually see the far side of the moon? Moon is also rotating on its axis, but the problem is that due to gravitational waves, even if the moon is rotating, the gravitational wave is more. Even if the moon is actually rotating in its axis, because of this gravitational wave, this is actually coming back, because of which this is moving because of gravitational wave. This rotation does not happen completely. It is very difficult to show in actually this with hand movement. So it's important that you go and see a video, and this is actually known as tidal locking system. So because of the presence of this tidal locking system, we can only see one part of the moon. We are not able to see the backside of the moon. So the backside of the moon, that 41% of area which we cannot actually see from the earth is called the far side of the dark side. This far side has one of the largest craters of the solar system, which is actually called the CaN basin. So all the statement is actually correct. Luna 25 and Chandrayaan 3 was also aiming towards the south pole of the moon. So all the 4 statements are actually correct in this statement. Moving on to our next question, we have the Yasuni National Park, which was recently in news, is from which country? This Yasuni National Park actually comes under the Amazon basin, and this actually belongs to Ecuador. Here the oil drilling and mining, this was actually protested by the people of Ecuador from the Amazon region, because they want to protect the Amazon and not extract more oil or drilling coming from Amazon region. So there was a protest in this Ecuadorian area. So this Yasuni National Park is in actually Ecuador. Choose the correct answer. How many countries come under the Amazon basin? So if you are looking at this image, we have Brazil here, Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, and French Guiana, which is actually coming under this Amazon basin. Here Argentina is not there. So if you are looking, in this, it's important that you should know that Amazon basin is there in news, and with the enactment of Amazon committee ACTO, it is important that you learn the countries which comes under the Amazon basin. So Argentina is not there. We have Brazil, Guyana, Suriname and Peru, which is actually coming under this Amazon basin. Okay, Peru is also coming in. So moving on to the next question, we have consider the following statement about Bharat NCAP, National New Car Assessment Program. So this has been in news. So this Bharat NCAP was actually introduced to reduce the number of accidents and improve the quality of the vehicles that is actually introduced into the market. So this Bharat NCAP is modeled in line with the Global New Car Assessment Program. That is a true statement. Now we have actually taken into consideration the global motor vehicle agreements and policies, and a UK based company has actually helped us in designing Bharat NCAP. Will be applicable to passenger vehicles with Cs greater than 8. No, it will be applicable with Cs which is less than 8 and which has less than 3500 kg. So in that case only this Bharat NCAP will be applicable. The number of cars including the driver's seat should be less than 8. The rating is between 1 to 5 stars and will be assigned to a vehicle after an evaluation of the parameters. Now the 3 parameters like adult occupation protection, child occupation protection and safety assessment technologies present in the car, these 3 are actually added, and then they are given a star rating of 1 to 5. If you have 5, it's very good. If you are below 3, the quality of the car is very less, and if you get into an accident, the chances that the person loses life or the chance that the person gets into an accident is very huge. So, a car rating greater than 3 is considered much more safer. The program is mandatory for every vehicles and manufacturing company to ensure the safety of the consumers. This program is actually not mandatory, but this is actually voluntary. So, if you are looking at the safety of the person, you might imagine that this program is actually mandatory, but the thing is that it is voluntary. The company who wants actually get a rating more than 3 and all, they actually come. A company or a car which has a rating is actually more in value in a market rather than the other cars. Like this could actually reduce the number of 0 rating, 0 star cars in the market and increase the superior quality of cars which has a rating above 3 and such. In 2018, Tata achieved India's first 5-star cars. That is actually a true statement. 3 tests will be conducted. There is a front impact test, the impact between car and car. There will be front impact test, then there will be a side impact test. If this is a car, if something from hitting from the side impact test will be conducted, and a side pole impact. The side pole impact is not present in the Western model of this new car assessment program, but in India there has been a lot of accident relating to people hitting in the side of the pole. This is the pole and the car hitting in the side. So, because of which we have also a side pole impact. So, in this statement we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 statements. Only 4 statements which are actually correct regarding the Bharat NCAP. In the recent years, Chad, Guinea, Mali and Sudan called the international attention for which are the following reasons. Now, this was the previous year question of last year 2023, it was actually a previous year question. Because these countries has been in news because of successful coups happening. In Niger, we have seen the recent coups and we learned about the committee ECOWAS in that region. Now, consider the following statements about One Health. This One Health is actually a joint plan of action, was launched by some groupings like FAO, WHO, United Nations Environment Program and World Organization for Animal Health. In here they actually bring in 3 parameters of people, humans, animals and environment. They consider that the One Health approach recognizes that the health of the people is closely related to the health of the animals and our shared environment. And this plan is valid from 2020 to 2026 and is aimed at mitigating health challenges at global, regional and other country levels. The researchers have estimated that 60% of the emerging disease is infected humans are coming from zoonotic in nature, which means that we acquire 60% of the diseases from animals, and these animals are actually taken to humans from like animals to humans it takes place. So, such kind of disease is called zoonotic diseases. So, all the 4 statements is actually correct. One Health is actually launched between the World Health Organization, Food and Agriculture Organization, our United Nations Environment Program and World Organization for Animal Health. So, here all the 4 statements are actually correct. Moving on, consider the following statement. All the students will be allowed to take board exams at least 2 times in the school year. Like this is regarding to the introduction of National Curriculum Framework, which was actually seen in news. National Curriculum Framework. This was in news recently. So, according to this, all students will be actually allowed to take a board exams at least twice within 1 year, and the best marks will be actually chosen. In class 11 and 12, they are actually required to learn 2 languages and not 1. Since like we had like 3 plus 2 formulas, we had like 2 plus 1 formulas, now this need 3 plus 2 formula kind of setup, where in the class 11th and 12th earlier we just need to learn 1 languages, and now we are actually bound to learn 2 languages, and out of the 2 languages 1 has to be an Indian language. Earlier in the 9th and 10th we just needed to learn about 2 languages, like English, one can be English or one of the Indian origin languages. Now we have to study 3 languages. So, that kind of formula has been included so that we can actually increase the number of languages and literacy levels within the school system. The National Curriculum Framework was drafted by the National Steering Committee led by K. Kasturirangan following the National Education Policy of 2020. So, This statement is also correct. This was actually drafted by K. Kasturirangan, who actually followed the national education policy. So here all the 3 statements are actually correct. Consider the following statements of BRICS summit. The 15th BRICS summit was conducted in Johannesburg in South Africa. It was happened recently in news, and 6 new members were actually added. If you are looking from the Middle East, we have UAE, Saudi Arabia and Iran adding to the group. From Africa, we have Egypt and Ethiopia being added. Then we have Argentina as 6 members. So BRICS was 5 members like Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Now the 5 members are expanded to 11 members with the addition of the 6 new parties. So here both the statements are actually correct. Consider the following statements about sodium-ion battery. A sodium-ion battery uses copper, which is cheaper than whereas lithium uses batteries of aluminum. So it uses copper, whereas lithium, like ignore this part. The sodium-ion battery uses copper, whereas the lithium-ion batteries actually uses aluminum. The sodium-ion battery has higher operating temperature range. Thus, it can be actually used in more extreme temperature without the risk of thermal runaway. Sodium-ion battery has a very low charge rate and smaller life cycle compared to the sodium-based battery. So, if you are comparing between sodium-ion batteries and lithium-ion batteries, the sodium is actually 500 times more abundant in the nature than lithium. Lithium is actually rarer, and because of which it is very costly as well. Sodium is 500 times more abundant, because of which it will be more cheaper. The sodium is more environmental friendly and it will help us in achieving net zero result, but the lithium is less environment friendly than sodium, and because of which we can actually get increasing fire risk as well. The sodium is the one which actually uses aluminum. Sodium uses aluminum and lithium uses copper. This copper is 3 to 4 times more expensive than aluminum. So in the first statement which we saw there, sodium ion battery said that sodium ion battery was made of copper, but it's actually made of aluminum, where lithium ion battery is actually uses copper, which is 3 to 4 times more expensive than the aluminum. Then they have higher operating temperature range in the case of sodium ion battery, because of which they are more, they can be even used in more extreme temperature without actually getting any risk of thermal runaway. That is not the case in lithium ion batteries. You have seen all the like vehicles get exploded or getting in fire because of there is excess of temperature happening. So the lithium ion battery, they have lower operating temperature range, and they can actually, like in extreme cases of temperature, they can actually catch fire. It charges faster than lithium ion variants and have 3 times higher life cycle. Okay, they can charge very fast easily, and the life cycle is like 3 times more higher than lithium, whereas lithium is a slow charge rate and has a smaller life cycle. So if you are coming back into this, the first statement is wrong. The sodium ion battery actually uses aluminum, whereas lithium ion battery actually uses copper. So the first statement is wrong. The sodium ion battery are higher operating temperature range, thus it can be actually used in more extreme temperature without the risk of thermal runaway. That statement is correct. The sodium ion battery has slow lethargy. This is not about sodium, but it is about lithium. So in here only one statement is actually correct. Moving on to our next, we have, consider the following statement about Nataraja statue. So it one of the, like the Nataraja statue is about 28 feet tall, and now the Nataraja statue is actually going to be placed in the G20 venue. So we should know about the Nataraja statue here as well. It is the oldest freestanding statue. It is about 28 feet tall, and it's actually built by the Chola queen Sembian Mahadevi. Now this Chola, like you should actually learn what all the portrayed in this Nataraja statue. The flock of hairs of the statue actually talks about the flow of Ganga. The right hand and left hand, like there is a drum which talks about the creation, and the left hand there is fire which actually talks about the destruction of the world. So this shows Abhay Mudra. So there is a lot of features that is actually shown in the Nataraja statue, and this becomes a very important topic in your arts and culture as well. So here both the statements are actually correct, and A is the correct answer. Both statement 1 and 2 are correct here. Moving on, consider the following statements about La Darcha Fair. The fair is held in Lahul and Spiti districts of Himachal Pradesh. The fair takes place during the third week of August every year and lasts for a fortnight. The fair involves trading as well as horse race, archery competitions and traditional songs and dances. Here all the statements are correct. This large archer fair actually connects all the Himalayan states, like not just is restricted to India, but the other Himalayan countries like Nepal, Bhutan, they also come and join hands to doing this La Darcha fair. Now this took place here in India. The fair actually takes place during the third week of August, and there is a lot of trading and involvement and activities actually going on in this fair. So in this, all the three are correct answers. All the three statements about the La Darcha fair is actually correct. So consider the following, going to the next question, consider the following statement about Chandrayaan 3. So if you are looking the point where the Vikram, like there was new terminologies that was given regarding the Chandrayaan 3 landing. So we are looking into that. The point where the Vikram lander of the Chandrayaan 3 actually landed has been named as Shiva Shakti. So this Shiva Shakti is the point, so this is the correct answer. This Shiva Shakti is the point where the Chandrayaan 3 has landed. The day of soft landing, that is August 23rd, is the day when Chandrayaan 3 actually landed in the moon, will be commenced as the National Science Day. It is like a space, so it's not science. So this is not science, but it is actually commemorated as National Space Day. You should remember the keyword and you should read the question carefully. It's not National Science Day, but National Space Day. So it's important you read through every bit of sentence. The point where Chandrayaan 2 left its footprint has been called as Tiranga. So in this only statement, only 2 is correct. The statement 2 is not National Science Day, but National Space Day. The Chandrayaan 2 actually landed in Tiranga, and the point where Vikram lander of Chandrayaan 3 landed is called as Shiva Shakti. Moving on, Sitakali folk art is from which state in India? The Sitakali folk art has been in news recently, and Sitakali folk art is actually from the state of Kerala. Like Sitakali, you might confuse it as Kerala, Tamil Nadu, like South India, but it's typically from Kerala. The Sanchar Committee recently mentioned in the news is related to Center-state relations, social, economic and educational condition of Muslims, scholarship for minority, reforms in the economic sector. So the Sanchar Committee has been actually recently in the socio-economic and educational conditions for the Muslims in India who are not getting any benefits of education or such, or jobs and such. So the Sanchar Committee has been actually going to look into the socio-economic and education conditions of the Muslims in India. Moving on, what is Crew 7 mission mentioned in news recently? So in news, Crew 7 mission was there. It is a mission of 7 people actually going into International Space Station, Antarctica, moon expedition conducted by JAXA, Japanese Space Agency, then expedition to Arctic. Now this Crew 7 mission is actually to the International Space Station, that's actually about in the low Earth orbit, that is present in the International Space Station. The Crew X mission, now this is actually done along with SpaceX, and the rocket in which they are going to launch is called the Endurance. So that is the Crew 7 mission. Which instrument in Chandrayaan 3 is used to measure the temperature of lunar topsoil? So if you are looking, about 7 payloads has actually gone with Chandrayaan 3. So if you are looking, this is the 7 payloads that actually went, and in this we have 3 important, that is the Rampa, Chaste and Lips. Now from these 3 we have actually got a little bit of inputs back. So if you are looking at Rampa, we actually saw recently there was presence of plasma that was present on moon. So this Rampa LP has actually confirmed the presence of plasma. Chandra surface temperature, that is Chaste, is the one which actually about the temperature of the lunar soil. So that actually came from this Chaste. This Lips, laser induced breakdown spectrometer propulsion mode, actually talks about the presence of sulfur in this moon. So these 3 instruments which was there actually gave about different ideas of the sulfur, of the plasma, of the temperature of topsoil, etc. in the moon. The other instrument is to look at the lunar seismic activities of the earthquake or anything. Then laser retro reflect array rover, then alpha particle X-ray spectrometer and shape. So spectropolarimeter of habitable planet Earth. So these are the 4 other instruments that actually went along with Chandrayaan 3, but the important is you learned the 3 because it has been in news recently about the Chandrayaan 3 finding plasma and sulfur and such, and these might come in the news in the coming days if they have found something significant from the moon. Moving on, consider the following statements about Tether drones. Now these drones are actually unmanned aerial vehicles connected to the ground via a cable. So you can see connected from the ground via a cable. The tether drones do not require GPS navigation. The tether drones have a short flight times compared to that of free flying time. Now they have a larger flying time and they can actually go much more kilometers and times or higher altitude than any of the normal UAV we have presently here. So this statement is actually wrong. This is the tether drones. We have ordered about 150 tether drones recently. It does not require any GPS for navigation and these are unmanned aerial vehicles. So in this we are X for correct, so only 2 is the correct answer here. Moving on, the report State Food Organization, State Food Security and Nutrition in the World is actually published by recently the Global Hunger Index and hunger in India and what is the nutritional status India has been given out. So this is actually given out by World Health Organization in partnership with UNESCO and such. So the State Food Security and Nutrition of the World is actually published by World Health Organization. The liquid apogee model which was seen recently in news. Orbital adjustment maneuvers of satellites and spacecraft, a new type of liquid fuel for rockets, a method to study deep sea ecosystem, monitoring atmospheric pollution. So this LAM, liquid apogee model, from this you can see apogee is actually about orbital adjustments and such. So orbital adjustment maneuvers of satellites and spacecraft in orbit, that is what is used for this liquid apogee model. So please refer to my previous like previous PDFs and such to get more details, because in these 45 questions we have covered a lot of topics which is regarding to the important for prelims from the August itself. So like it's just not restricted to 45 topics, there are a lot of other topics. So please go and revise each day's PDF, like there is just hardly 20 to 30 slides in each of my PDF. So please go and revise the August PDF. So I have told you about accumulation of the 6 species that was in news. We have a clouded leopard. Now there are 2 types, there is Sunda type of clouded leopard and a mainland type of clouded leopard. So in IUCN this has a vulnerable, like they are extinct because of the loss of habitat and such. Now it also has rotating rare angles that enable them to climb down. If you are seeing here, you can see it climbing downwards, facing the head down first. Now this is not possible in many of the leopard species, but this rare end, like putting the head first and climbing down, is possible in a clouded leopard. Now it is also called the ninjas of the forest because they have striking agility and strength. Now there was presence of eagle owl, it is considered least concern. Now you see the horns and such. Now that is a specialty of this owl. It is classified as a species only recently. Now like before this it was actually considered along with the Eurasian eagle owl. Now it has been categorized and differentiated as Indian eagle owl. The prominent ear tufts which I have shown you there is actually looks like horns, and this actually threatens any predators that is coming in. Now we have flying foxbat. Like recently, like before, it was actually mentioned in Schedule 5. Because of which Schedule 5, we know that this was declared as a vermin. So the government gives the order that the species actually increases, you can actually kill it. Then actually it came to understanding that this is a keystone species in their ecosystem, because of which this actually the flying foxbat was removed from Schedule 5 and inputted into Schedule 2. This is India's largest species of bat which spends 7 days, 7% of its day roosting time, being environmentally vigilant. So they are very vigilant, they cover the colony like our Indian soldiers in the borders, they are very vigilant to any incoming predators or threats. So that is the flying foxbat. If you are looking, like it's very big and it has a fox-like appearance. The last 3, we have the white-bellied sea eagle. It is also least concern. It actually inhabits in areas of the coastal region and is found in South and Southeast Asia and feeds mostly on fish, sea snakes and such. Then we have the hulo gibbons. This is very important. Now this is there are 20 species and only 1 species of ape that is actually present in India. India's only ape, that is the hulo gibbons. There are 2 types, there is western and the eastern, and the western is actually endangered, where the eastern hulo is actually more vulnerable, and in India it considers in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. It is smallest and very fastest, they are highly intelligent and they have distinct personalities. So that is the hulo gibbons. Then we have the Rex sansova. It is actually considered near threatened by IUCN because this is very much traded online and offline. Illegal trade is happening because there is a need for red sand boba for the use in black magic, and there is a this is used as pets as well. So because of which there is a lot of illicit trading happening in the red sand boba. Thus it is actually near threatened, and so it is actually near threatened by IUCN list. So that is the covering of the prelims important topics for today. This is only like 30 to 40% of all the topics I have taken. So please go and visit my other of the video classes. So if you like, please share and subscribe. So these 45 topics and the 6 species I have told you becomes very important for you, and these are the main topics which you can expect some questions from for the future prelims 2024. So that is it for today. We will do the part 2 tomorrow. We will be dealing with over 10 to 15 questions about mains. So we will see you again tomorrow. Thank you and have a nice day.